I'm Dean, I'm the dad.
I'm Laura, I'm the mom.
Oh, I'm Krysta, I'm the daughter.
And together we are...
Family Plot!
What, decide you weren't going to do the show this week?
No, she was just in cookie mode. It's a thing.
I'm Cookie Monster. Nom, nom, nom.
You know, you gotta, but it's the intro. It's the one part of the show we always get right.
Shall we do it again, Dad?
No, I'm mostly just giving her heck.
All right. She does not look amused, Daddy.
No, she looks very unamused.
Maybe we should keep moving.
Yeah, especially, but the thing is like she was talking to her girlfriend about coloring her hair, and I said, you should do purple. And she's like, no, because last time purple didn't last. I said, it's not going to last anyway. You're going to be swimming in the pool all summer. So you go purple, because that way, when you go to re-dye it at the beginning of school year next year, you can take it blue if you want, or you can take it red, because it had been purple.
My ex liked my hair red. My ex.
Okay. All the reason not to do red.
Exactly. That's the whole reason I did it in the first place. I don't like it anymore. I like it on me, but it's not because of him.
Okay.
I'm not actually saying the F word.
Okay. So, where were we?
We were just getting started, so...
Okay.
You got distracted.
Did we say family plot?
Yeah.
We did say family
good.
plot, so
Good,
now we're into the intro.
Good.
We're gonna tell the people about if you like what we do and...
Right. First things first, though, let's talk about our Patreon. There's 3 different groups that you can donate to: Team Electric Bill, Team Bunny, Team Podcast. Doesn't really matter. It all winds up in the same place. And it's 1, 3, 5, and 10. It's a monthly donation. Happens at the first of the month. So, yeah, it's super simple. And
it would really help us out if you could.
Yeah.
You know.
And if you can't do a monthly thing, you can always go to Buy Me a Coffee. Any whole dollar amount will do there. Also want to say thanks to the listeners. Now, we always thank our listeners, but in this case specifically for responding in droves to our last episodes, literally hundreds of downloads. If I had to guess, I'd say because the River Scene Mansion is not well known by those outside Missouri. And it kind of surprises me, too, because... like it crushed the Savo Maneaters episode, which I thought would have done great numbers just based on the number of sharks episodes we've done and how well they do. So
I don't know. There's a little bit of difference between sharks and trying to decide if you're on side big kitties or side people trying to forge a railroad across a country.
Right. So, anyway, whatever the case, thanks for listening. Thanks for all the downloads on the last episode. Hopefully, a few of you stuck around to catch this week's episode. So that's awesome.
Certainly hope so.
Finally, if you want to help us out, if you enjoy the show, we encourage you to share it on social media. If not, keep it to yourself. There we go.
That's all we ask.
Yep. Thanks for jumping in on that, Krysta.
You're welcome.
So, what are we doing tonight? Well, tonight we meet people with a bad reputation. We cover a subject that, frankly, has had numerous books written about it.
Tonight, we talk about the awesomeness of the Romani peoples.
Yes, we do our best to discuss the Romani people, their origins, their history, their superstitions, and so much more in this historical, cultural edition of the Family Plot podcast.
Okay, but I have to say, so as the person who wanted to talk about this, I just don't think outside of what what do they call those? The, reality TV show about the gypsies, about the Romani people, about the different factions of Romani people, like looking into their lives.
I didn't know
My
that.
big fat gypsy my big fat gypsy life or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Anyway, so there was a show on like one of those reality TV show. And outside of that, you don't ever hear anything talking about the people who have this in their history. And it's just always been something that's just a little bit different, a little bit mystical, and I just knew there had to be more to it. So I decided that we needed to talk about it on the show.
And we're going to. We've got a lot to get into.
I'm excited.
But first, Krysta has her corner.
If she can get the cookies out of her mouth.
You are right. You are lucky I didn't take your finger off.
That's right. I told you that. So, Krysta, what are you talking about today?
Other than staring at your little sister.
Yeah, we're just going to leave the little sister alone. She's not feeling well today.
I wanted a hug from her.
Aww. Is that what you're talking about today? How much you love your little sister?
Yes.
That's so sweet. You know, it's her birthday here in just in 6 days. It's her birthday.
Yeah, I know.
Less than a week.
Wow.
Next Tuesday.
In 6 days, she'll be 6.
Oh. Lexi, you're going to be 6 here soon. And you're going to get presents.
Yes, she knows. She's staring at them.
Yep. In 6 days and 6 hours. She'll be 6.
Dad!
That didn't go well.
That's not going to end well, is it?
Nope.
Nice job, Dad.
Good job.
So, Krysta, your corner?
Yeah, it's my corner. I love her so very much. Look at her little outfit today. She looks amazing, even though she didn't go to school.
Well, yeah, because she's sick.
Well, yeah.
Poop.
Poop?
I forgot to get... Never mind. It's fine. Go on. So what do you got for me?
What do I got for you?
Yeah, what are you talking about? You talking about Lexi for real?
Yeah.
You're so full of blue mud. You just didn't have anything prepared.
No!
Okay, go ahead. What you got for us?
I didn't write it down, though.
Okay.
Okay. Only because I've been threatened twice. I don't feel safe over here.
It's not just any corner. It's Krysta's corner.
Are you going to talk, Chris, or...
Okay, yeah. Sorry. No, that was a joke. What's your favorite sweet?
My favorite sweet?
Both of you.
Oh, I've got an answer for that one. Tiramisu.
Lemon bars. Oh my gosh, now I need lemon bars. That sounds so good.
And I need some tiramisu.
Great.
Like Cinzetti's.
Cinzetti's. That's so good.
Right now.
Hey, Cinzetti's, we love you. We would totally do some promo for you on our show. If you wanted to hook us up with maybe some free Cinzetti's meals.
Mama.
Hey, look, I'm trying to feed a family of 6 here. I can offer to scratch their back. They scratch mine. I don't have any issues with that. They're probably not going to hear it anyway, but hey, you never know.
At Cinzetti's, please sponsor our podcast. We
Yes,
would be very much
absolutely.
grateful.
Dad can tweet it to her.
I'll tag him in the episode.
Yes, tag them in the episode, and he can tweet it to our Twitter followers, and we can Facebook them, and all the wonderful things. We can give them great Google reviews.
I will give you great Google reviews.
Yes, heck yes. I would give them great Google reviews anyway because we love Cinzetti's. In fact, Cinzetti's is one of the first places we went on a date.
Yep.
Aww. My favorite dessert, well, my favorite sweet is cheesecake.
Cheesecake's really good too.
Cheesecake is so good. Ugh.
And cream puffs.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about Cinzetti's.
Oh my gosh.
And crepes.
Oh, crepes are really
and
good.
Bananas.
Crepes are really good.
Strawberry and bananas.
I saw a recipe. Well, it seems a bit much to call it a recipe. But one of those hacks that you see on Facebook in the videos or whatever.
Yep, those things.
And they took like some of that Philadelphia cream cheese. The instant. Oh, the
cheesecake filling
the
stuff?
cheesecake filling, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they took that. They mixed in some chocolate. They just blended it enough to turn it into a ribbon. And then they dipped strawberries in it.
Nice.
Okay.
Sounds tasty.
Give me that. Cut up the strawberries and put all of that in the crepe. There you have it.
Ooh, yum.
So.
2 favorite desserts in one.
Also, blueberry cheesecake.
I have never had blueberry cheesecake, but I'm sure it's good.
If you like blueberries, I do not.
I love blueberries.
Although I did have a blueberry barbecue sauce at a Native American restaurant. It was quite tasty.
I see.
I'm sure it was.
All right. Was that all you had today? Desserts? Not that I'm complaining. I am a fan of desserts.
Desserts and babies, yeah.
Babies and desserts.
Desserts and your sister.
So do I give you the do I clap your way out of this corner?
Yeah.
Please.
We know the Romani, or as they also occasionally call themselves, the Roma, originated in India in or around the 10th century Common Era. However, what we don't know is why they left. There are many stories told of why these people wander the world in the manner they do. Some claim it was persecution. Muslims had just taken power then, and the Muslims are not usually benevolent to non-Muslims when they tend to be in charge, historically speaking. And the Romani at the time were very much prohibited from having any sort of relations outside of the Romani. So, and Muslims kind of have a breed them out theory.
I see.
So, rather than deal with that, they just sort of left. Still others claim there was a great disaster, like a flood or a fire that desolated their homeland and put them on the move. Still others claim they came under a curse. Whatever the truth, most believe it to be persecution. What we do know is that the Romani began to make their way westward, first being noticed in the Ottoman Empire by about 1200-ish or so.
So, in other words, they started making funky pieces of furniture to rest your feet on?
Well, since that really steals a joke from Eddie Izzard, let's not.
Not intentionally. I didn't know that was a joke from Eddie Izzard, but
Whenever
okay.
I hear moving westward, I think of westward expansion, even though that was like an expansion
American
of a country, not like.
That's okay. This is way before the Americas even were realized, so all good.
That's okay.
So, in thinking and carrying along with this historic march, by the 1300s they had begun to arrive in Crete, and there they were encountered by a monk from Ireland who happened to be visiting the city of
I would go with Heracleon.
Heracleon. That sounds good. And the monk wrote of the Romani people that they rarely or ever remain in one place more than 30 days, but ever, as though bearing God's curse with them, after the 30th day, go like vagabonds and fugitives from one locality to another, in the manner of the Arabs, with small, oblong, black, low tents, and run from cavern to cavern, because the place where they establish themselves becomes, in that space of time, so full of vermin and filth that it is no longer habitable. So even at this early stage, they weren't really seemed to be liked or accepted in Europe.
And part of that was because of the dark skin. Coming from India, they're not as white as a lot of the other Europeans.
Sure.
And that's part of it. And then the other part of it is that for whatever reason, Europe treated them almost worse than the Jews. Now, and that sort of persecution, like, it's like, which one's more persecuted? I can't answer that, but it's not a good thing. Let's go there. Sure. Now, the Romani tend to like bright patterns on dark backgrounds, which is not surprising if they come from India. If you look at anything in native Indian wears, and by native Indian, I mean a person from India, not an American Indian.
Right.
They tend to like bright or dark colors with little pops of design or other colors or whatever. So it's not that surprising to find it in Romani culture.
Sure.
Their tents are small, low-slung affairs, and the wagons that they used to travel in were ornately carved. They subsisted by visiting backwater areas selling things they made. Places that didn't have a marketplace usually, or anything more sophisticated than like a farmer's market. Those are the sort of places they went. They did that. They offered their services as labor to help with harvesting crops or the like. And if all else failed, they could always provide entertainment. There is a reason that Disney has in Hunchback of Notre Dame, the underground, the rebels, which really are Romani people. They had a substantial presence in France at the time. But they had them doing tricks because that was the sort of entertainment the Romani provided. Right. It was like a carnival or a circus minus all the rides, because they couldn't do that. But they would put on these fabulous shows. They also had a reputation for working with dark forces. So it was believed they could read the future and all sorts of other stuff. So they would make money doing that as well.
Right. Sure. I mean, like you do, because if that's what you're going to be known for, you might as well use it to make your living, right?
Right. And after a time, the Romani sort of got in this place where they'd been treated badly enough. They didn't really care how badly they treated outsiders. They wouldn't openly attack them or drive them away or anything, but boy, they sure didn't mind fleecing them.
Oh, I mean, sometimes that's what you do.
Well, I mean, as we talk about this, we're going to get into like a lot of stuff that happened to them and things that they had to put up with. So, to my mind, kind of the people picking on the Romani deserved what they got, because the Romani didn't really hurt them in the long term. They just basically one way or another, gathered the money they needed to survive.
Sure.
Now, before we get too deep into this, let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors, and then you can pick up the next part.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. Yeah.
I feel sponsored.
Yay, I'm glad.
So,
Krysta, do you feel sponsored too?
you do? I'm glad. I'm glad that you're with us and feeling sponsored, Krysta. So, now we have to discuss, however briefly, the term gypsies. Originally, it was from the mistaken belief that the Romani originated from the Egyptians. Thus, they were gypsies traveling the world. Since the Romani have come together as a culture, they have made it clear that they do not care for the term and consider it insulting. We cover it here only to inform any of our listeners who may still use the term, not knowing that the Romani consider it insulting, that the people themselves prefer to be called the Roma or the Romani. In fact, in the very first World Romani Conference in 1971, the Roma voted to not identify with any outsider affixed labels due to their stereotypes and the connotation.
So now we know where that term comes from.
Yep.
And like I said, there was a sizable population of them in France. There was also a sizable population of them in Spain. There was a sizable population of them in Romania. There is currently a very sizable population in England and an equally sizable population in the United States.
Yeah, that's where that show that I was mentioning was.
Right. So now, another myth is that the Romani chose to travel like this, that they traveled in this manner in order to trick and fleece the local populace and move on before their supposed perfidy could be uncovered. What is known is that in Europe, they were subjected to mistrust and racism. In many places, their swarthy appearance and dark skin made people think of the Ottoman Empire, and some believe the Romani were scouts for the Ottomans, even though their differences... Hang on a minute, sorry. I kind of lost myself here. Even though that there were many differences between the Romani and the Ottomans. And even though the Ottomans' religion were one of the many reasons that they did not enter Ottoman cities, is that not a lot is known about the Romani religion, at least not in any of the sources. I'm sure there's a book somewhere that covers it. There's a lot of books on the Romani. But I was not able to uncover it in the search I did. So, so they didn't enter Ottoman cities because their religion very different from the Ottoman religion, and the Ottomans are not real cool, or at least were not at the time, about other people and their religions. I mean, the Ottoman Empire, and they argue against it, but they basically are responsible for the Armenian genocide.
Oh, goodness.
So the Romani would like set up outside the city, and so that they didn't have to deal with the Ottoman officials.
Well, sure, absolutely. You wouldn't want to be near those kind of people.
And also, now, the Romani, for the longest time, tried to maintain the purity of their culture, and so outsiders were rarely, if ever, brought into the culture.
Right.
Also, the Romani are very protective of their culture and share a little bit with outsiders. In fact, in the late 80s, a Dateline, or some similar show, did a bit of a hatchet job on some American Romani because these people were staying at They were at some sort of conference, but they were staying in a nice hotel, driving very nice cars, which the news show found somewhat suspect. And they were flipping off or making evil eye gestures at any camera they saw. They knew the news crew was there. And but again, in a group that's been so persecuted.
Well, sure, you can't blame them for being suspect of anyone trying to record what they're doing.
Right. And also, that was in the United States.
Right.
And we'll talk about this a little more later, but the United States is really the only place where the Romani still roam.
Really?
Yeah. In Europe, for the most part, like in Romania, they basically were nailed down by the leaders of the country into ghettos.
Oh, that's terrible.
They were forced into ghettos. And so, but that's the reason why there's a significant population in England and the United States, is while World War II was going on, they didn't think that ended well for them. I mean, they were put in concentration camps when they were caught, just like the Jews and homosexuals. So
pretty awful.
Yeah. So
in France, they were persecuted by the church. So we see that in Disney's version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. We see how the gypsy people are looked down upon all the way through the course of the telling of the story. It's definitely a very strong storyline driver in that story. In Spain, at one point, they were rounded up and deported from the country. They were attacked in Germany. They were not allowed to join any guilds or practice gilded professions. In England, they have long been been scapegoats, and in fact, one theory at the time blamed itinerant Romani for the slayings of Jack the Ripper. In short, they were treated a little better in Europe than they were in the Ottoman Empire. So, I mean, really, as a whole, just the people have really had a rough history.
Right. And because of that, I mean, that was one of the reasons that they lived a nomadic lifestyle, traveling from place to place. And they also went to, like I said, backwater areas where they could sell their stuff with much less fear of persecution.
Well, sure.
They could help. They could sell themselves as labor. If a farmer needed hops picked or, the crop brought in, the Romani were the people that could help them do it. Sure. And, and it's in some places it was so bad that literally the Romani had to empty their pockets and work with their pockets out to make sure that they didn't take any of the farmer's property.
That's terrible. That's so bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just... And the Romani have a reputation, especially in Hollywood, but outside of it as well, for being superstitious and practicing magic. Often characterized as dark magic by those who view them with suspicion. Hollywood contributed to this belief in the movie The Wolf Man, and while the Romani have strong verbal culture, and they do have certain superstitions, they mostly play on the beliefs of outsiders, selling a skill they are believed to possess even if they do not actually possess it. Because of this, their long history of being persecuted, there are some Romani clans that do specialize in fleecing outsiders. But this seems to come from a, well, if we're going to be accused of it, we might as well do it attitude.
Well, sure.
And it's interesting to me because the Romani and the Jews both heavily persecuted. And the Jews seem to sort of just eat it up and button up and move on. They don't really... The Romani get a little more irritated by it. And they sort of embrace it, kind of, in some ways. Not all of them. I do not want to say that. I'm just saying that there is a certain level of... Well, it's okay to fleece outsiders, but that was hard drilled into them just because if everywhere you go, you have scorn heaped upon you, then after a while, what's it matter what other people think, you know?
Sure.
If they're already going to think the worst, why not live up to it?
Fair enough.
And like I said... They were already going to England just because they swept across Europe. But come World War II, they realized that it could get very bad for them. And so they did what they could to get across the sea to the States.
Fair enough.
And that's when they started making their way over here. And like I said, and in America, they found just as much hatred and suspicion and superstition as they found in Europe. So,
well, so a lot of that is just, it's a lot of just superstition and stuff. I just hate when people have that attitude about people.
Yeah. Now, that was something else I wanted to say is that Romanian authorities forced the Romani people into ghettos, largely ending their traveling ways throughout Europe.
Sure.
And in a lot of the rest of Europe, they just sort of grounded to where they were, and they live in those areas. Now, England, they're still a bit nomadic. And in the States, they certainly are. But they're not... Like, in the States, it's not like they don't have a home and they travel. It's like they have a home and then they'll go to places and go...
To work.
Right.
And they come back to their home, and that's how they...
Yeah.
That's kind of how they end up doing so well here in the States, because they have the ability to have those groups of kind of like... ready and waiting. It's like, let's go out and make this money and bring it home to our families, and then they have this culture of
right. And in the States, at least, I don't know if it's true in other parts of the world, but in the States, different clans will specialize in different things. Yeah. So, like, I know there's a couple clans that do roofing. Like, they just travel the country. They'll go down to, like, Florida, and they'll swing through Florida, a lot of moneyed old white people, and fix their roofs.
Well, okay.
And then there are other clans that, shall we say, aren't as scrupulous. They'll say they're going to fix your roof. Somehow your roof doesn't wind up quite as fixed as you would like.
I see.
But again, each clan, at least in the States, seems to be like mostly into one thing. You know, they'll do this, they'll do that, they'll do the other. And there are a couple that aren't so legal, let's say.
Yeah.
But again, I really think that, I mean, given their backstory, it's just... They're going to be judged anyway. They do what they decide to do what they do. And that's the best way I can put it.
Fair enough. So the Romani have many rich traditions and are a unique culture, though. And that's what I think is so beautiful and incredible about even their history. My goodness, so full of hatred and disdain and just really unfairness. But you know what? When you do get that chance to glance at them, they still live their best life.
Right.
You know, it's like if the rest of the world is going to spit on us, we will cling to our own, and we will love our own, and we will find our joy in what we do. And so, absolutely, I just think that what they are able to do and the little gleans that I have seen, and even the things we've talked about today, make them such an incredible, unique, and amazing culture. That, you know, it's draws the imagination. So
I'll go with that. And yeah, like, I know they've started to intermarry with other cultures to some extent. Not a lot, but
right.
it's happening.
And just in general, they don't, I mean, for obvious reasons, would still overall probably not trust outsiders. And unfortunately, of course, there are many ignorant people out there in the world. Certainly, we see that every day. Many outsiders still, those whispers and those oddities just are nervous about things they don't understand.
Right.
However, they are quietly parts of many nations and are a unique and interesting part of our modern society. And for that, I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, and in a way, okay, I'm not going to go with that introduction. I'm just going to tell the story as it is. When I was much, much younger, and I'm somewhere between 5 and 7, we lived in Osawatomie, Kansas, and not the mental institution that's in Osawatomie, the city.
I see.
Yeah, such as it is. Anyway, one of the people that lived down the street from us was an older lady, and she was a Romani. I could barely understand her. She lived alone. And I didn't have a lot of friends in Osawatomie, and she was probably my closest one.
Oh, that's the sweetest thing I've heard.
I would go over to her house because she was always sitting on her front porch, and I remember that, like, her daughter married an American and moved to the States, and then became very sick. And her daughter brought her over to help care for her. Her daughter passed.
Aww.
And she didn't have a way home.
Oh, bless her.
And so, but, I mean, she was always nice to me, always super sweet to me, taught me how to read tarot.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to meet a Romani and actually get to know something about her. Could I tell you much about the life? No, I barely remember it.
Right.
You know, I was very young. I barely remember it. But I do remember her being like a grandma almost.
Good to you. Yeah. That's so sweet.
So I just... And I want to encourage our listeners that if you use the G word, which is all I'm going to call it, that you switch over to the Roma or the Romani. Just, they prefer
respectful.
It. Yeah.
It's respectful.
They prefer it, and it's not a name given to them by outsiders. It is their own name.
Right. Absolutely. I like Romani. I feel like Roma reminds me of a tomato, which is probably my own ignorance, but that's...
Well, the funny part is the part of the world they come from is the part where the Aryan race lived. And so this blonde-haired, blue-eyed race that Hitler was so big on, there's no way they were blonde-haired and blue-eyed if they were living near these people.
Interesting.
So I just find it funny.
That's interesting.
So that is our show.
It is.
Thank you for listening.
Wow.
What?
I am extremely hurt right now.
Why are you hurt?
You didn't ask her for final thoughts.
Oh,
Final thoughts?
I didn't even put him in there. I forgot.
Yeah, you didn't have... look at the notes. There's no final thoughts for anybody.
So, yeah, well, you got final thoughts, Krysta? Please share them. I would love to hear them.
I do have final thoughts. Thank you very much. You should have put them in the notes.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. This week, I'm trying to distill a culture down into something we can talk about in under an hour.
You know, it is possible to have more than one episode on the Romani people. That would be fine too.
Oh.
Okay, anyway, your thoughts.
Yes, my thoughts. Sorry, I had a cramp in my leg.
You're all right. Share with us.
I think that people need to start, if they haven't already, treating them like treating others as people. Because some people they don't think about how things affect them, and they don't think about how things affect others. But when it does affect them, they care. That is the only reason why they care.
You got it.
I think that at the same time, if you feel a certain way when somebody attacks you for something you love doing, or if you're in a culture you're in, or a religion, you should be respected, right? Sure. So should the other person.
Absolutely.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. To my way of thinking, I feel like the Romani have been persecuted almost as much as anybody, really. And they deal with it by sort of embracing their own and being suspicious of outsiders, which, coming from their culture, I sure as heck don't blame them. Outsiders have earned that.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, when you will not enter a city for fear of persecution, you live on the outskirts, and then people start judging you and talking about, you know, well, the vermin and filth that you leave behind in your campsite, which...
Honestly, they're being more of wretched vermin.
Yeah. It just... And so, I mean, okay, back around that time, if you camped, right? Big camp, blah, blah, blah. And then you left. Yeah, there were animals all over the campsite. Why? Because you might have left food or things they want. And they're searching for crumbs. And they don't
distinguish.
They don't, and they don't want to be there while the people are there. So they wait till the people are gone.
Yep.
You know, and then they can sort of swarm in droves. But to blame the Romani for that is just ridiculous.
Yep.
They would be the same thing if they went out and camped.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're willing to forgive themselves. They weren't willing to forgive the Romani, which...
Because they're not willing to forgive anything because they are not open-minded.
But the thing about the Romani is that... They thought that they were basically fronts for the Ottoman Empire. They were coming in to convert them or like reporting back. They didn't like the Ottoman Empire any more than the Europeans did. They had to cross the landmass to get to Europe. They were not fans.
Maybe I get it. But maybe you shouldn't assume things until things actually happen.
There's some truth there. I used to know a guy, had his own... He had a Greek restaurant. He wound up doing some other stuff. His name was Billy Gatsoulis. Nice guy, Billy. I liked Billy. But Billy... Oh, I was just wondering what she was doing. She was waving at you, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, Billy was a Greek, and he had been in Vietnam, I want to say, when he was much younger. And he got injured. And when he got injured, he woke up in a hospital, and the doctor was like nice to him. Now, the thing you got to understand is Greeks and Turks are usually not friendly. They've been at each other for centuries as a race. So the peoples rarely get along. Well, Billy was in the hospital and the doctor made him feel better, and finally the doctor, like, Billy had to have corrective lenses. So finally the doctor found his glasses, or they got sent in or whatever. I don't know why he didn't have them for most of the stay, but they eventually got Billy a new pair of glasses. And as the doctor's handing his glasses, he's like, let me give you a piece of advice, my friend. Always know who you're dealing with. And as Billy is putting on the glasses, he sees the doctor's a Turk.
Interesting.
So, yeah. That's an odd picture of yourself.
That's what I looked like this morning when I woke up.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it was rough.
No, Dimmix had the same thing going on with his eye.
Yeah. Anyway. But that's our show, right?
That is our show, is such as it is. Thank you for listening, as always. Thank you, and if you're a Romani and you hear this, please let us know how we did. I wanted so much to be respectful.
Yes.
I was trying to be respectful as well.
Yes, absolutely. And if you have something that you felt like we should have shared that we didn't share, we would be happy to
Please enlighten us.
Have a conversation about it. Correct our information if you feel that it would be helpful. We would be thrilled.
Yeah. So, what were you? You didn't give any final thoughts. Not now.
Well, I think I did throughout the course. I don't know that I have final thoughts. I just really the history of the people and persevering and clinging to that family, I've always thought was really beautiful. So to me, family's a very important thing, and I cling to my children and my family. I feel like family is beautiful and should be, surrounded and encompassed and loved. And that was like, they make their family. All of the family, that extended family, the cousins, the second cousins, and it's just a beautiful culture of traditions. And from the little bit that I've been able to glean, and even the belief systems and taking those things that other people see and turn it, even if it's maybe something that has a negative connotation, and turning it into a way to feed your children and a way to continue to escalate your lifestyle and provide for those. Go you.
Yeah.
Talk about turning lemons into sorbet, just making something beautiful out of something that would otherwise be a negative. And I love that. I think that's uplifting and amazing and encouraging. And I think more people should, those are the kind of people that we should look to.
Oh, absolutely.
The people who are able to take things that would normally be a detriment to someone else and use it to not only continue to survive, but to thrive.
Right. And I find it kind of funny that only the U.S. is still free enough to let the Romani roam like they used to. Even though it's not quite like they used to, they have homes now. Sure. But they still live on the road, going from place to place, doing things, and then coming home.
Yeah.
And that I very much admire that.
Absolutely.
And again, that's our show. We keep trying to end it, and then I keep coming back to things. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Bill Barrett, who does our theme music. If you need music for a project or just someone to play at your wedding or reception or what other private event
Bill's
you might have.
Dude.
Bill's a good dude. Bill's the dude who will do it for you. You can reach him at Bill Barrett. That last name is spelled BEHRENDT at sbcglobal.net. Thanks to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime, which, by the way, is a brilliant podcast. If you are looking for a true crime podcast, Paige is your girl. Reverie True Crime is the podcast. But in this case, we're thanking her for her Canva addiction. Because of that, she and our Krysta did our logo art. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
Thanks to Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show, who continues to promote us locally. Join us next week as we take yet another dive into another fascinating topic here on the Family Plot Podcast.
Bye.
Bye.